Hello, friends. The first official report of the Air India Ahmedabad plane crash has now been made public, and it has revealed some startling truths. Following the release of this report, Boeing stock prices went up. They're now at the highest point in the past year. Naturally, this suggests to some people that the company wasn't to blame. The report appears to point toward pilot error. But now, a growing number of people are asking, is this an attempt to blame the deceased pilots in order to protect the companies involved? Is the reason behind this that the pilots are no longer here to defend themselves? Let's try to understand the details of this report together and gain a new angle on what caused the crash. This report was released by India's Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau, the AAIB. On June 12th, at 7:47 a.m., this aircraft departed from Delhi and headed to Ahmedabad. By 8:40 a.m., the aircraft was cleared for its next flight. The pilots scheduled for this next leg were based in Mumbai. They had reached Ahmedabad the previous night, which ensured they had sufficient rest. The co-pilot was the pilot flying, while the captain served as pilot monitoring. The report refers to them as PF and PM. So essentially, the co-pilot was flying the plane and the captain was overseeing the operation. Before this, at 8:25 a.m., both crew members passed the pre-flight breathalyzer test. Neither of them was under the influence. According to the CCTV footage, they were seen at the boarding gate by 9:05 a.m. Prior to departure, the aircraft was carrying 54,200 kilograms of fuel. The takeoff weight was just over 213,000 kilograms, well within the maximum allowable weight of 218,000 kilograms. The aircraft took off at 10:08:39 a.m. At exactly 10:08:42 a.m., the aircraft hit its top speed 180 knots. And right after that moment, things began to go wrong. The fuel cutoff switches for both engines. Engine 1 and Engine 2 shifted from the run to the cutoff position. These switches controlled the flow of fuel to the engines. The run position means the fuel supply is active, while cutoff means it's been shut off. So, once the switches were moved to cutoff, fuel stopped reaching the engines mid-air. As a result, the engines failed. Each engine has its own fuel cutoff switch, and according to the report, they were both turned off within 1 second of each other. One engine lost fuel supply, and then, just a second later, so did the other. Because of this, the aircraft reportedly began descending before it had even cleared the airport perimeter. After both engines failed, the ram air turbine, or RAT, deployed. By 10:08:47 a.m., it had started providing hydraulic power. But sadly, the power provided by the RAT wasn't enough. The plane was simply flying too low. After both engines had failed, one pilot asked the other, "Why did you cut off?" To which the other pilot replied, "I did not do so." This brief exchange is mentioned in the report, but the issue is that only this snippet of their conversation is provided. What was said after this? The report doesn't make this clear. It also doesn't clarify which pilot said what. As you can imagine, this incomplete dialogue raises even more questions. Did one pilot turn the switches off on purpose, or was it an accidental touch? Was the switch design flawed, or did some maintenance issue cause a failure? This question lies at the heart of the mystery. We'll revisit it later in the video. Let's return to the timeline of the crash. Roughly 10 seconds after fuel supply was shut off, at 10:08:52 a.m., the pilots turned the first engine's fuel switch back to the run position, and 4 seconds later, at 10:08:56 a.m., the second engine switch was also returned to the run position. Fuel was now reaching both engines again. A few moments after that, the first engine restarted, but the second engine, despite having sufficient fuel, didn't come back. Tragically, the pilots had already run out of time. At 10:09:05 a.m., one of them made a mayday call to air traffic control 3 times. ATC tried reaching them again, but received no reply. The plane had already crashed. Just 6 seconds after the mayday call, at exactly 10:09:11 a.m., the flight data recorder stopped recording. This is now believed to be the moment of the crash. Some people believe that the crash was deliberate, that one of the pilots, possibly dealing with psychological distress, intentionally cut the fuel switches to crash the plane as a suicide act.
Once they downloaded the information from the flight data recorder and the cockpit voice recorder, it was clear that one of the two pilots, one of the two human beings in that cockpit, placed those fuel control switches from run to cut off.
Supporters of this theory say that the biggest evidence is the pilot's statement. Why did you cut off? Not, how did that happen? Or, why did the engine fail? But directly, why did you cut off? They interpret this as proof that one pilot believed the other did it intentionally. But this line of thinking ignores one crucial thing. The other pilot replied, I did not do so. One could argue that a mentally unstable pilot might lie in his final moments to avoid blame. But here's the contradiction. If a pilot wanted to crash the plane deliberately, why would he allow the switches to be turned back on just moments later? Why deny it right before the crash? Another point against this theory is the record of both pilots. The captain was highly experienced, over 15,000 flying hours. The co-pilot had flown for over 3,400 hours. India Today reports that neither had any mental health issues. The captain was nearing retirement. Why would someone close to retirement do something like this? The co-pilot's record was clean too. Both had cleared the breathalyzer test before takeoff. Most significantly, turning the switches back on within 10 seconds strongly suggests that the pilots were doing everything to save the flight. And another important observation, nowhere in the report does it definitively state that the pilots themselves turned the switches off. That conclusion is an assumption, though there is reasoning behind that assumption. The report never directly confirms it. Could it be possible that the pilots accidentally brushed against the switches, causing them to cut off? That's extremely unlikely. Let's understand how these fuel switches work. They aren't just levers you move up and down. They come with an inbuilt stop lock mechanism. To change positions, you need to first pull them up, then move them. So a simple brush of the hand can't activate them. And don't forget, we're talking about two switches. That's practically impossible. Moreover, pilots follow strict procedures. These switches are only operated when the aircraft is on the ground, either when starting the engine before takeoff or shutting it down after landing. In midair, they're left untouched. The only exceptions are rare situations, like if an engine fails or catches fire, then the fuel might be cut off for safety. Even then, there's a set protocol. Both pilots discuss the step first, and they take the aircraft to a safe altitude before attempting it. Turning these switches off right after takeoff is unheard of, even in case of engine fire. So if it wasn't intentional and wasn't accidental, what else could explain this? Some senior pilots suggest a software or electrical glitch, where the system mistakenly showed the switches at cutoff when they actually weren't. While unlikely, this is a theoretical possibility. Now, let's look at a specific airworthiness information bulletin released on December 17, 2018 by the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration. According to this bulletin, Boeing 737 operators had reported issues with fuel switches where the locking mechanism was disengaged. This means the position of the switch could be changed without needing to pull it up. Under those conditions, accidental movement was possible, though rare. Boeing 787, the aircraft involved in this crash, was included in the list of planes with faulty switches. The FAA recommended that operators inspect these switches and replace them if needed, but Air India didn't conduct this inspection. Their response? It was only an advisory, not a mandatory directive, so they weren't obligated to act on it. Interestingly, the throttle control module, which houses these switches, was replaced twice, in 2019 and again in 2023. But as this report clarifies, those replacements weren't due to issues with the switches. So the real question is, could this uninspected part have caused the crash? That's something we still don't know for sure. This report quotes just one line from the cockpit conversation, and that one line is now being used to pin blame on the pilots. We're not told what else was said. India's Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau has the full recording, so why isn't the public being given access to it? Could this be an intentional effort to shift the blame? The Airline Pilots Association of India posed this same question to the AAIB. They argue that the report leans heavily on pilot error. Air Marshal Sanjeev Kapoor, Director General of Inspection and Flight Safety, agrees. He said that turning off both fuel switches on a 787 within 1 second is practically impossible. He posted on Twitter, challenging experienced pilots to replicate that. He believes that both engines failed shortly after takeoff, and the pilots tried to restart them in those few moments. As of now, this is where things stand. This is the preliminary report. According to international aviation rules, a preliminary report must be released within 30 days of a crash. This crash took place on June 12th, and the report was uploaded by the India Case Bureau on the night of July 11th. Such preliminary reports don't assign blame, because the real answers will only be found in the final detailed report that's expected to be released within a year. I hope that this final report includes the complete cockpit conversation, and the truth, however unpleasant, is shared with the public, because unfortunately, that doesn't always happen. Take March 2022. A Boeing 737 crash in China claimed all lives on board. The plane plummeted vertically, an extremely rare occurrence. You'd expect that after 3 years, we'd know what caused it. But surprisingly, even after the investigation concluded, the truth wasn't disclosed. The Chinese government cited national security and declined to release the findings publicly. If you want me to make a detailed video on this, let me know in the comments.